Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, a person who I used to like, Douglas Murray from Great Britain, attacks, I would say, Joe Rogan in a very, very weasel way. I used to like Douglas Murray until October 7th, because after October 7th, you know, that's when history starts again. Put in the calendar, your children and all that, commemorate and vigil. Since then, Douglas Murray really came out and he attacked certain people who I think were right on two subjects. The main one was obviously what happened on October 7th in the Middle East. And I was listening, I couldn't believe my ears, what I was hearing, and I was seeing Douglas Murray, the same thing as Ben Shapiro, who I used to like and I think is a very smart guy. The problem is they lost, I don't want to say balance, I would say credibility, because you lose intellectual honesty when you are very logical here, but on this subject you are very illogical because of the subject, because of the message you want to promote. And Douglas Murray promoted a certain kind of ideology, as Ben Shapiro does, regarding that particular issue in the Middle East. So Douglas Murray was invited by Joe Rogan at his podcast, and Douglas Murray, who's a very smart guy, again, I think, makes a fool of his intellect, because he's going to attack, I would say, Joe Rogan in a way that Douglas Murray, could have been and could be attacked in the same way. I will show you. I will show you the whole video clip and then we're going to discuss. The point is this. Remember, whatever Douglas Murray accuses Joe Rogan of doing, he has been doing. All right. You know what it is? Joe Rogan is not an expert. Neither is Murray. But anyway, so let's start with this, and then we're going to have Donald Trump, who's going to back Murray, and I didn't know why until I read the first, I think, paragraph in one of the articles, and I understood why Murray and Trump are against, let's put it this way, mildly, Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan invited a person that should be a undesirable by media who has different opinions. And you can't have this in a free society. You can have only the opinion that is approved by the forbidden government. So let's start with the first article. And then we're going to go to the video. The first article. It is from April 11th, 2025. I don't defend anybody here. I'm just saying that you can make all kinds of connections. How tension between experts, quote unquote, and podcasters took center stage on the Joe Rogan's Experience. Experts. I gotta tell you that one of the reasons why you see me here making these videos is exactly the reason why the experts were put in front of us to show us a narrative by the so-called, corporate media, legacy media, as I call them, the guys in charge, and they are the operatives. They will bring all kind of experts who were really, I was looking at the experts and I was thinking, no, this guy is, no, it can't be like that. And by the way, experts make mistakes as well. I mean, weapons of mass destruction, there were some experts in intelligence, right? And so on. So when you say an expert or you say a scientist, follow the science, when you hear that, the scientists make mistakes as well, and they have interests. I don't think they're objective. Some of them are, but if you want to see how the certain scientists behaved horribly, look at COVID-19. So, here it is. British author and journalist, so these are all for Douglas Murray, just so you know. British author and journalist, Douglas Murray, so is he expert in what exactly? Joined podcasters and comedian Joe Rogan and Dame Smith on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast Thursday, where they debated the limitations of podcasts as a source of information and the war between these two guys. Murray spent considerable time in the Middle East to research Is he an expert because of research? I researched many subjects. Doesn't make me an expert. I think I'm as an expert as Murray if I researched. So they tried to build his credibility that he's an expert in his latest book on democracies and death cult Israel and the future of civilization, which was released Thursday. Pro these guys right here and against everybody else who have a different opinion. So here it is, my friends. This guy said, I'm going to show you that video clip. I'm not going to read it. But here is Men's Journal. Douglas Murray calls out Joe Rogan over just ask questions. Well, didn't Murray just ask questions at times? All right, and we have here, and I found out on this is the same information. We're going to go to this. And this is where I found out the connection. Trump's backs conservative author who confronted Joe Rogan to his face. Remember, he begged this guy for his endorsement. He begged him. Yeah, right, here it is. We don't say begging. Donald Trump on Friday promoted the book of his friend, conservative author Douglas Murray, just a day after Murray confronted Joe Rogan on his popular podcast. And this is the link pin, or how do you call it, kingpin? The British writer took issue with Rogan's recent interview with a guy with a different opinion who claims that Winston Churchill was the chief villain in the World War II. That's an assessment. That's a belief. That's a free person's ability to have free speech. Murray comes from Great Britain. They don't have free speech over there. We have it in the United States of America. Okay, so that's why Murray, and that's why Trump, because look who's in Trump administration. I don't have to go deeper than that. Go around the block and see what's going on. So let's play the video where Murray, intellectually and with his cute accent, who pretends to be very sophisticated, which I think he is, but he blew his cover, my friends. All right, here it is. Let me see, what do I have here? So, someone's stoned there. Who that? I think this guy. All right, let's go.
I bet you agree on a lot of things, and I bet you disagree on a lot of things. And it'd be fascinating to see your perspectives on these things. So that's why you're here together.
Okay.
And
Well,
Douglas,
Can I ask you something?
yes, sir.
Since the war in Israel began, and since the war in Ukraine began, you've had quite a lot of people who are very against both in different ways.
Yes.
Do you think you've had enough people on who are supportive of either war?
I don't know that word enough, if that's a good word.
Let's say enough people who are on the side of Israel instead of wild critics of Israel.
Well, I've had a few. I mean, I believe God Sad is on the side of Israel.
For sure.
Jordan is on the side of Israel.
You had Mike Baker, Coleman Hughes.
Yeah.
Coleman did it for like 20 minutes.
So this guy right here, he tries to make the point that you didn't invite equally, or maybe, and he started with since the war in Israel began. He refers to 7th of October. Doesn't he know that the war in Israel started in 1948? He doesn't know that? All right. He should look at the Balfour Declaration, since it was in Great Britain as well. So he's already starting his history. His debate from the point where he likes, which he likes. Not the previous one, not before, no, only from them. So already that's intellectual dishonesty. If you like Murray, I don't think you agree with that. If you see, let's say, someone slapping someone, you don't go and get, oh my God, he slapped it, let's discuss this one. Ask what happened before the slap. Maybe the guy who got slapped did something to this guy's kids, or wife, or family, or himself. Murray doesn't talk about it. Why? Because he's on the losing argument. All right, let's move on. And he has a problem. He tries to say it's a discrepancy between supporting. He just asks questions. That's probably going to be, what's his name, Rogan's answer.
That wasn't why he was here.
No. I mean, none of them. And none of them is why they're here. You know, it's a good question.
Do you think you've tilted one way?
This is the inquisitioner right now. He is telling, don't you think that you did something bad? You should shut the fuck up and change your mind. Basically, this is Murray. You are a bad dude right here because you didn't jump on the other side of the equation somehow, because he invited probably a little bit more on the other side instead of the other one, because he keeps count. Like you go and say, okay, MSNBC, how many you got on the left? How many you got on the right? This is Douglas Murray. Free speech? No? All right, let's keep going. It's such a weasel way. And he's still serious right here.
Personally,
No, just with the guests you've
the
had.
guests, yeah, probably more tilted towards the idea that perhaps the way they've done it is barbaric.
But why do you think that is? Just out of interest. I'm just interested in your selection of guests because you're like the world's #1 podcast. So
Yeah, it's not. I don't.
Murray right now, just try to get him say something so he can gather enough information so he can swamp him.
I don't think about it that way. I just think I'd like to talk to this person.
But can I just?
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
it's your show.
Go ahead.
Sure.
If you're going to interview historians of the conflict or historians in general, why would you get somebody like Ian Carroll or?
Yeah, but Ian Carroll, I didn't bring him on for that purpose. I brought him on because I want to find out, like, how does one get involved in the whole conspiracy theory business? Because his whole thing is just conspiracies.
Sure.
You know?
But do you have any? I mean, there's been a tilt in the conversation, in both conversations, in the last couple of years, and it's largely to do with people who have appointed themselves experts, who are not experts.
Like you.
You mean like Ian? I don't think he appoints himself an expert in anything.
Who's that other dude who thinks he's an expert on church?
The other dude.
Oh, Daryl Cooper does not think he's
Dude looking down. Not the expert like he or his people.
an expert.
No, in fact, I think it's everybody else is always calling him an expert, and he's like, oh, I'm just a history
Have you
nerd."
ever absorbed any of his material? Have you ever consumed any of his podcasts or anything like
I
that?
tried.
Yeah?
I tried.
It's pretty hard to listen to somebody who says, I don't know what I'm talking about, but now I'm going to talk. Or I don't know about this.
Or he should not talk then? Is that what you're saying, Murray? It's exactly what he says.
I'm not capable of debating this historian, but I'm going to just tell you what I think.
Yeah, but that's not
I think that's a
exactly
little
that's
bit
not
out of
exactly what
context.
Daryl was saying. I mean, Daryl's point of view, however you feel about this, what Daryl is saying is he doesn't really like doing debates. He likes to do long format stuff where he can really explain his
But
position.
if you throw a lot of shit out there, there's some point at which I'm just raising questions is not a valid thing. You're not raising questions. You're not asking questions. You're telling people something.
He decides he is the judge. Okay, I'll be the judge of Murray then.
Do you think Daryl's doing that?
I think there's a whole bunch of guys doing that.
I think-
Dave is doing that, very obviously. Dave's a comedian, but he's now mainly
This guy's a tyrant. Tyrant mind.
talking about Israel.
No, I don't know if I'm mainly
no.
talking about Israel.
That's
but
all I see
I
you
have
on the internet
opinions.
doing.
Yeah, but that's you
Well, that
just
might be what you've seen.
It's
but
just
I don't
You've
think
seen
it's-
it.
So
consuming
that is,
clips.
but that is also your shtick now, isn't it?
Well, what do you mean by that's my shtick?
Well, you're not a geopolitics guy in general, are you?
I don't even know exactly what you're asking.
I'm saying you've decided, being a comedian, you've decided now.
So you should not talk because you don't know it all? That's this guy's point right here. You should not talk because you're not an expert and you don't know it all. Then we all should shut the fuck up because we don't know it all? Who knows it all? You?
Become somebody who talks about Israel
This
and
is
the
not,
conflict.
I think you're incorrect. I don't think it's a decision. I just think you have long form conversations, multiple of them. It's a huge event that's in the news, so it comes up. I don't think
know,
it's a
but-
thing. I think if you're on the outside, you'd say, oh, look, they're trying to get attention by talking about this very polarizing issue publicly. That's
But
not.
you do get attention from that.
So?
If you'd spent the last year speaking about Myanmar, you would not be on my lips.
Yeah, but
or a
he
lot of other
does
people's.
talk about Yemen constantly. He talks about a lot of things that aren't in the news.
Well, I
constantly.
tend to talk about the conflicts that my government is directly involved in, which I think
And because you're not an expert, Murray decides you should not talk. Let the experts talk. I will tell you about the experts.
is reasonable to me. But I don't quite get, like, what's all the appeal to authority stuff? I mean, what you have to
I
be an
do-
expert, or
No, I
and
think
what exactly
authority
makes
matters.
you
I
an
think
expert?
authority matters, and I think that if you just throw a lot of shit out there and then
He already characterized that as a lot of shit.
say I'm not interested in the alternative views on this, and particularly when it's a counter narrative that is wildly off. And when you get people, look, I just feel we should get it out straight away. I feel you've opened the door to quite a lot of people who've now got a big platform, who have been throwing out counter historical stuff of a very dangerous kind.
My name is
Got
John
it?
Canny. I'm the CEO.
Got it, my friends? So you can't talk, you can't deny, and you can't have an opinion, according to Mr. Murray. Is that what it is? Now, if you haven't seen an intellectual tyrant, Murray is. That's what he is. I never thought before the 7th of October that he would be like this. He's anti-free speech. Now, when I was watching the experts, the analysts, I have a problem with them, or the experts, PhDs, professors, they came and told me what to think about certain events. I knew some of them were BSing. Some of them were either avoiding telling us the truth or they were simply lying. They were lying by omission and by interpretation. They were avoiding mentioning certain valid points in order to support their flimsy worldview. And Mr. Murray here, he says that you should not even talk. Are you an expert? That's the whole point of free speech. You can make a fool of yourself if you want, but because he's got a platform, this guy comes and attacks him. Now, I don't know about you, my friends, but that little thing over there with, what's going on here? That little thing over there with Murray, for me, it was not necessary to cement it. So let's say you go outside, you go to a, how should I put it, neighborhood meeting. And they're going to talk about, I don't know, we're going to build in our community, we're going to build, if we're allowed to build a mall. And you say, well, I don't know, I don't think the malls are good, it's a lot of concrete, it's a lot of this, the foundations, I don't think so. I think, and someone will say, are you a civil engineer? If you're not, then shut the fuck up. Well, okay, well, I think that, from my research, wherever you have, let's say, Walmart coming in your neighborhood, I think it depresses the salaries, the income. Are you an economist? Are you an accountant? Okay, well, when you drive your car and when you speed up, you can hold the steering wheel up. Are you a professional pilot, driving a race car? I mean, like this, we will never talk. Remember that imbecile who sits on the bench of the Supreme Court. Her name is Kajani Jackson, whatever, Kajana Jackson. When she was asked for her confirmation, it was confirmed, obviously, Katanji Jackson. She was asked, can you tell us what's the difference between a man and a woman? Or female and male? And she said, I'm not a biologist. Remember, that person who will judge cases, she would raise her hand or no, she would be asked about certain things. Like, for instance, okay, it was this particular thing where you have a human being doing this. Because you're not a biologist, you don't know if it's a human being or a dog. You're not a biologist, you're not a zoologist. You don't know the difference between a dog and a human being. You should know that. But she didn't know the difference between a male and a female. Now, what is this? This is intellectual activism and is dishonesty. And Douglas Murray is the same way. If you don't agree with me, you should not be allowed to talk. That's exactly what he says. And again, generalities. You talk about throw a lot of shit. Now, don't ask questions. He said, it's a moment when you ask questions. It's not, I can ask a question however I want and how many questions I want. And if you don't want to listen to it, get the fuck out. Leave. Don't listen to it. No. You remember that one? I might disagree with what you say, but I would die for your right to say it. Murray, I'm listening. Now, Murray, as Jordan Peterson, fucked themselves big time. At least on my level of intellectuals. Out. First, ask. I don't even have to go to Dr. Jordan Peterson. Again, I like part of what he said and what he did for us. But when he turned into two subjects, Putin and Israel, they all fail. You find their intellectual dishonesty. Ben Shapiro the same way, and many, many others. These are the two questions when you want to ask an intellectual to see if that intellectual is going to be objective and it has integrity, intellectual integrity. Ask him about Israel and Putin or Russia, which you have to in the same, or the other one, ask him a religious question. As I always say, ask him about, do you really think that Noah built the ark when he was 600 years old and he died when he was 900 years old? And do you think that those animals came together and two of each came over? And if he says yes, You know that with that person you can only discuss the game that the other people played yesterday, maybe the weather, how is the drink, not even women. That's it. That's it, my friends. But those are people. This is Douglas Murray, the intellectual, the writer, the expert. He wrote books. Good for him. Is he an expert on those things? Yeah, because he studied. Okay, how much do you need to study? How many books you need to read in order to be an expert? And what kind of books? Remember, when you go to college in the Americas, you have to, when you write a paper, you have to use peer-reviewed quotations. You have to use only the approved, university-approved bibliography. Bibliography. That's what you need to use. You can't come with something outside of the approval circle of scientists. That means your conclusion will be the same as these guys. And then they allow one thing a little bit to the left or like this, and everything is boom, right? The conclusion is there. It happened to me. So Douglas Murray, don't talk if you're not an expert. Just let the experts talk, okay? Don't we let the experts lead our country? Don't we let the experts, the advisors? Tell me, Mr. Murray, if you will, and he's not gonna. What were the credentials of, or what was Mr. Kushner, Jared Kushner's credentials and expertise? He was an expert on Middle East that he was appointed by Donald Trump, your friend, right? As a senior advisor in the first administration of Donald Trump. You tell me, it's just because he's got his cock pop and he was a pop? Is that what it is? Exactly. And Benjamin Netanyahu used to sleep in his room when Jared not that one. Jared Kushner was, younger. They knew one another. Where is Kushner's father? I'm listening. My friends, he sold his soul. Murray is intellectually dishonest, I think, by claiming that if you don't have a PhD, that makes you an expert. Only those guys can talk in a society. Only those guys are allowed. You are not allowed to, because you might make mistakes. Well, don't you think that PhD guys don't make mistakes? They do. They did in front of me. I dominated people in social science when I went to university here. And I'm not bragging about it. It's sad, because when you come from Romania, you're a doctor in something. Wow, when you talk about the doctor's subject, you have nothing to say, man. That guy knows he's gonna just do like this with you, mop the floor. Well, I did with some PhD laureates, or how do you want to call them, in freaking university. And I was like, who are these people? But then when I went to the university, I realized this university is high school. High school level, where the evil communists taught me. High school level, my friends. Not even, I would say, in some respects. So yeah, don't talk. You don't know what you're talking about. I can talk how much I want. Remember, we teach our children in America, no question is the wrong question. It depends who you support. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.